Halloween.
I think he'll come back.
Halloween, the night he came home. Rated R.
Thanks for tuning in to Flashback Horror Movie Podcast. This is your host, the Prime Minister of Sinister, Don Nice. And due to some technical difficulties, we are going to enter into this most recent episode in progress. With me, as usual, is the Pajama Pants Playa, John Grande. So again, guys, due to some unforeseen circumstances, we were going to enter into this episode as it is in progress. Pretty cool. Did you hear that there's going to be a 30 for 30 on Ric Flair?
I have, yeah. I'm super excited for that. I believe it's November 7th, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I just saw the commercial for it this morning.
Oh, man, dude. I've never been so excited for a 30 for 30, man. That is going to be awesome because Ric Flair is one of my all-time favorite wrestlers.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, I mean, you know, the crazy life that he led, you know what I mean? So, yeah, it looks like, you know, that's definitely somebody you want to see one on for sure, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he had I thought, you know, I'm not as into wrestling as I used to be, but I was still pretty excited to see that. So, and I do believe it is the 7th. It's on at like 10 o'clock at night, though. I'm sure they'll play it more than once. But I also got a chance to see Better Watch Out, which I don't know if, you know, I'm not sure how many people have actually heard of that movie or know about it, but it's kind of, obviously it's a Christmas themed, I don't want to say Christmas, I mean there's like Christmas decorations and things like that, but it takes place in the winter. Anyways, it's kind of similar to The Babysitter in the fact that it, you know, there's a babysitter and a younger kid who, you know, is kind of in love with the babysitter, and I don't really want to get too much into to the, you know, there's kind of a twist like at the beginning of the movie, which is pretty interesting. But what it is he's trying to impress this girl, and he has his friend act as if he's an intruder, and he wants to save her from the intruder, but she finds out pretty early, and then it kind of goes awry from there. So, but I thought, again, it was another one that I really dug. I thought it was pretty awesome. So, you know, anybody, you know, I don't know if I would call it straight horror. It is definitely horror, but I don't know if, you know what I mean? I don't know if I would consider it straight up horror. So some people might be mad if they watch it expecting, you know, I don't know, the Boogeyman or a slasher or whatever. But I thought overall it was really, really well done. As a matter of fact, I put something on Twitter, and the director of the movie actually liked it and retweeted it, so that was kind of cool. And it was, you know, I mean, it's not a big budget or anything like that, and I don't think it ever spent any time at the theater. Do you know?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think it went straight to video or straight to on demand or whatever. I don't know if anything goes straight to video anymore. I know it goes to on demand, but anyways, that's another really interesting movie. I'm sorry, I'm having some problems. I apologize for everybody with distortion in my mic. I don't know what's going on. But it might be overwhelming. Do I sound okay to you, John?
You sound
okay,
fine.
Sorry,
I wouldn't even have told if you didn't say anything.
Okay, well, sorry if there's any problems with this. I just want to let everybody know. I know it's there. I'm attempting to fix it as we speak. So, but anyways, so yeah.
Did you hear about the whole Jordan Peele is going to remake the Twilight Zone series now?
I saw that, and I saw your response. They said, "Is anyone excited about this?" And you're like, "Nope, can't fix perfection." So yeah, I did hear. I mean, actually, I just heard about it this morning for the first time. I don't know how I feel about that. I mean, you know, people really, really liked Get Out. You know what I mean? So maybe people were super pumped about it. I'm not a huge fan of the Get Out movie. I thought it was a very mediocre, if not boring movie. I thought it was okay. You know, I mean, I would say check it out. You know. But I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Is he going to be doing it by himself, or is he? I can't imagine he's going to do it all, right?
They're pretty much saying that he's going to work as the either the producer or
Okay.
pretty much the main creative
Wow.
force. Which, I mean, I know there are some political Twilight Zone episodes, and,
Right,
and
right.
maybe those he knows, but like, I don't think the guy knows horror at all. Like, I really just don't. I know a lot of people would consider Twilight Zone to be, is it sci-fi? Like, I don't think so. I always looked at the Twilight Zone as horror.
Well, yeah.
Because it may not be stalk and slash or anything
Right,
like that.
right.
But it's like a lot of psychological
Sure.
horror, and there are quite a few episodes, which are straight up horror. I mean, watch Living Doll and tell me that's not horror,
Right.
There's a lot of episodes like that are super horror related. I mean, there can be some sci-fi ones, but
Sure.
I don't know. We'll see how he does. They've tried to reboot that series twice and failed miserably
Right.
both times. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, I think that sci-fi can be horrifying. You know what I mean? Sometimes. So yeah, I mean, and I think the intent with creating the original Twilight Zone was definitely horror. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean, with a twinge of sci-fi every once in a while. So. And I haven't seen a ton of episodes or anything like that, but I definitely feel like the time that it was definitely made to horrify people, because sci-fi was originally made to horrify people too. You know what I mean? It was about the unknown. You know what I'm saying? So, I definitely feel that it's definitely horror based for sure. But yeah, I guess we'll have to wait and see. Did they say when it was going to be coming out or anything like that? It's probably in the early stages, right?
It's early stages. I wouldn't think for another year it wouldn't be
Right.
out, but
Gotcha.
I just. I was like, damn. I was like, please don't do this. Like, please. Like, they've tried twice, and both times it could not have been worse.
Right.
So.
Didn't last very long. Actually, the second one lasted a few years, didn't it? Like 3 or 4 years.
The 80s one lasted like 4 years
Yeah.
or something. But the one with Forrest Whitaker as the
Right.
Rod Serling role, that didn't last, I don't think, a season.
Excuse me. Yeah, that one was definitely horrifying, if you know what I mean. So,
Did you end up watching Hocus Pocus?
dude, I still haven't. I just can't get around to it. I don't know what's going on, but I will, guaranteed. Before the end of the year, I'll definitely watch it.
I figured I had to ask.
Yeah.
So we were talking about it. And I was like, oh shit, did he see that?
No, I didn't get a chance yet, but I most certainly will. So I still plan on it. I just haven't gotten around to it. But I am off work again today. So I was off last week because I was sick, but I'm off work again today. So maybe today will be the day to do it. But that's the other thing I wanted to talk about, is that starting at 5:00 tonight is the Horror Hound Horror Hound convention, the horror movie convention here. So I'm excited about that. It's only about 3 or 4 miles from my house. So I will be heading up there at about 5:00 tonight, and hopefully that goes well. I'm pretty excited. So, I mean, it's just a stacked guest list. I mean, not a ton of huge names, but there's a ton of people going to be there, and a ton of people I'm excited to see. So they have like a reunion from Friday the 13th Part 4, and like Ted White's going to be there, and from Part 4, and I know like Tom Morga is going to be there from Part 5, and so I'm really excited. Like, oh man, what's in Part 4? I'm thinking 5. Ma and Junior are going to be there.
No way.
Yes,
Ethel's
they are.
gonna be there?
Yes, they are. So I know
You got to get Ethel to do a goddamn intro for the channel.
that would be amazing. Yeah, I don't know if they do shows. I mean, this is the first time I've ever seen them at a show. So.
Oh my god,
Yeah.
dude! How amazing would that be? She'd be like, "Who the fuck are you? What the fuck do you want?"
Isn't that awesome? That would be incredible.
One of my all-time favorite Friday the 13th characters.
Yeah. Oh, no doubt. Both of them. You tell them, Ma. I love both of those. So, but yeah, I'm pretty excited about that.
No.
Excuse me. Judy Aronson's going to be there.
Oh, still looking voluptuous.
Deborah Voorhees is going to be there. I don't know.
Sue.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how she's looking lately, but
damn, you're gonna be like have to mortgage your house.
I know, that's what I said, man. I'm going to be broke as a motherfucker. So, but anyways, yeah. So I'm pretty excited about that. So hopefully that goes well. Like I said, next 3 days are going to be kind of a whirlwind, I'm sure. So I'm excited about that. But I guess we should probably get to talking about. Ryan really wanted to do this show with us again, man. But I don't know. Our schedules just aren't lining up. So. He never got back to me. I texted him and told him we were doing the show, and he never got back to me. So Ryan, one day, man, there's still plenty of Halloween movies to talk about. I know he's excited about that. So
yeah, what stinks is I think he works in the morning, and I work at night. So,
right.
And I don't know if it's ever really going to work. I hope it does.
Yeah,
but.
yeah. So yeah, we'll figure something out at some point. So, but we're thinking about you, Rye. So, anyways, so Halloween 1978. Obviously, I mean, like I said, we talked our heads off about this to other people, I'm sure, online and all that good stuff. But I think that I think it's time, man. It's a classic. How do you feel? I know you're a fan of 2. Do you like 2 better than 1? And what's your reasoning for that?
I've always liked part 2 better than part 1, and that's just for the sole reason, I think, because I saw part 2 first.
Gotcha.
It was one of the first movies I remember, well, horror movies that I remember renting after I got done with Friday the 13th.
Right.
And I remember it was one night I went, and my intent was, it's actually the same story. I have the same story with how I got into Star Wars. Okay. But I remember going to get the original. I wanted to see the original, and they were out of copies of the original. They only had part 2 and part 3 and so on. So I went, all right, I guess part 2 is the closest thing to part 1, so I rented part 2.
Right.
Fell in love with it, of course. And then same thing with Star Wars. I remember going, saying, I want to get A New Hope. I want to see A New Hope. Didn't have A New Hope. Watched Empire Strikes Back. That's my favorite Star Wars movie.
Gotcha.
And it's not because, everyone always goes, because it's dark. It's dark in tone. No, it's not why. It's because I saw it first.
Yeah. But I think a lot of people are like that with the Star Wars movies. Empire Strikes Back's their favorite.
Yeah, and they'll all tell you because it's a dark movie.
Right.
But I don't know if I agree with that. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I didn't realize how dark it was. I was just like, this is just awesome. This is the coolest thing ever. Like, I could not believe the sword fight. Like, when I first saw the lightsaber duel between Vader and Luke Skywalker, I was like, this is the coolest fucking thing ever. Like, when you're a kid, like, I'll never forget when I first saw that. I was like, this is fucking the coolest thing ever.
Absolutely.
And the same thing with Halloween Part 2. I mean, that was a movie that really got me into the genre, like back into the genre, because I was into Friday the 13th for a while, but this movie really, I think, kick-started my love for the genre.
Sure.
But I didn't really see the original until probably a few months after that, and I absolutely love the original as well. I mean, it's a movie that it's really like, I feel like saying, what can I say about it that hasn't been said, kind of thing. But it really is the perfect horror movie. It is the epitome of a classic horror movie.
Right.
Of course, the classic John Carpenter's score, which is probably the greatest thing about this movie. I mean, you've got Jamie Lee Curtis in her first significant role. You got Donald Pleasance, and probably the role that went on to define his career, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
I would love to know how he felt about that, because I think he probably maybe liked the fact that he was working and it was popular again. But it's a movie with a great atmosphere. It's a movie with just an amazing story and legend, and
I agree.
Killer. It's just it's a perfect movie. But what's your memories with the first time you watched this one?
Well, I have to be honest with you. I kind of, now that you bring it up, I don't know if I saw part 2 or the original first. That's kind of weird to say. Everybody knows from us talking that Friday the 13th was my first time. It's where I lost my slasher virginity.
Me too.
At the drive-in theater back in, when it would have came out in 1980. But I can tell you that I feel the same way you do. Halloween 2 is my favorite, and I don't really have any specific reason. I think for me, I was really, really afraid of hospitals at night as a child. You know what I mean? Like, where they turn off every other light, you know what I mean? Or every third light. Only every third light is lit in the hallway. And I remember spending some time in the hospital as a child, not me personally, but there with someone. And it just freaked me out. As a matter of fact, it still kind of wigs me out a little bit. So I think that probably added to my love of 2. But thinking back, I don't remember if I saw 1 before I saw 2. That's kind of interesting. I'm guessing, because of my love for 2, I probably saw it first. Because I'm kind of like you in the fact that, usually for me, the first one that I see is my favorite. I'm the same way with music. Like, And Justice for All, Metallica's And Justice for All is like my favorite album because it's the first one that I paid attention to. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Yeah.
That's it. Counting Crows, August and Everything After is my favorite album because it's the first. Well, it's their first one, but it's also the first one that I heard. So, I don't know. Maybe that's just kind of the way I do things. But I can't remember the first time I ever saw this movie because it just seems like it's been such a part of my life for such a long time, kind of like Friday the 13th. And it was such a big deal to see Friday the 13th, the original Friday the 13th. That's why I remember that one. But yeah, you can't. I mean, this movie, like you said, is an absolute classic. Anybody who doesn't believe that this movie is a classic is probably just a hater. You know what I mean? I mean, you can't. I don't know anybody who doesn't say this movie.
I've never met a soul that doesn't like this movie.
Right? Yeah. Any horror movie fan for sure, and most non-horror movie fans would tell you that this is a classic. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a different classic than Friday the 13th, don't you think? You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, I mean, this movie is really, even though it's credited as being a slasher, it's credited as one of the most influential slashers. I don't really consider this movie a slasher. I consider this movie the perfect cohesive unit of building tension.
Sure.
The perfect cohesive unit of just an entity, an evil entity. There's nothing. It's not about how big's the body count. This is not a movie. Like part 4 of Friday the 13th, that's a body count movie. That's a slasher movie. Let's see some titties, let's see some blood, let's see some mayhem.
Right.
But a movie like this, I mean, yeah, is there the scene with PJ Souls? Absolutely.
Right.
The elements are there, but it's not executed like that. It's not like, there's just no story. And no, this whole movie is pretty much what I've always said about this movie is it's a build to the last 20 minutes. Right. This entire movie feels like a build to this last unbelievably well put together and tense chase scene between Laurie Strode and Michael Myers. And I mean, it's a phenomenal movie. Just all around, I've always loved the opening kill where it's the killer's POV, and a lot of people, I know there's controversy over, did he steal it from Black Christmas? And to be honest with you, I don't really care. I feel like a lot of horror fans get caught up in all these fucking things like this, where it's like
the minutia.
Yeah, all this bullshit. Did he steal it? Did he steal? Who cares? Black Christmas is a classic. Halloween's a classic. It's not like he ripped it off and the movie was bad. I think that's when it's like, he tried to rip it off and failed miserably. That's when it's like you can call it out on the carpet.
Sure.
To call it out on the carpet here, who cares? It's brilliantly done. I don't care who thought of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Do you consider this movie? I mean, I think I know the answer to this, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you consider this movie more art than what came after? Most of what came after.
I don't know if I consider this movie art really in the fact that I don't think when he was making this he was thinking art house or he was thinking
I don't either.
Anything along those lines. I think it was. I honestly believe what he says. I think he says, I was just trying to make a fucking horror movie. That was I don't think there was any intent of this is going to be the greatest thing of all time.
Right.
I think he just kind of fell into how great this movie was in a similar fashion as to how Hooper fell into how great Texas Chainsaw was.
Sure.
It was just something he fell into. It was the perfect time, the perfect cast, the perfect setting. And the setting is something I've really always loved about this movie. I love Haddonfield, Illinois.
Yes.
I love the setting of this movie because there's nothing better when you see around Halloween time that October 31st, 1978, and then they fade that text out, and then it just says Halloween. And that's one of I always remember being so enamored with that, but when I was a child. And I love in part 4 they actually go back to that. But it's a perfect setting, man. The quiet town where, nothing had happened for 15 years, and I love everything about the town of Haddonfield.
Yeah, I agree. I think it can remind most people of where they came from, and I think that's huge. But what I think about when I think about this movie and John Carpenter in general, I will say to anybody, I'm not ashamed to say that John Carpenter is one of the best filmmakers of his day. Not just horror filmmakers, but filmmakers in general. Because, like you were saying, it's just the way John Carpenter makes films. And the way that John Carpenter makes films resonates with people. You know what I mean? For whatever reason. And I think that's what makes a great, I'll say artist, but I know especially with people like you and I. When you say artistry, when talking about slasher movies or horror movies, it makes you think pretentious and things like that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily like that word either, but it just happens to be the way that he makes films. It's kind of the way his brain works. And like I said, I think that that's what resonates with people, is that it's always a little bit different than everybody else. And I think that that's what makes him great. Now, talking about, the town of Haddonfield, and I grew up in a town like Haddonfield, even though Haddonfield was actually Southern California, but I grew up in a town where everybody knew everybody, and my friend's dad was the sheriff, and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I think that's part of what makes this movie resonate with people, is that these are kind of like regular characters for the most part, and as PJ Souls would say, totally, that's what makes these people interesting. So. But let's talk a little bit about that opening. Do you remember your initial thoughts as a child seeing that? Was it a big deal to you, the POV shot? Or was it something that you kind of came into recognizing later on that it was a pretty interesting way to do things?
I mean, I always thought it was a pretty interesting way to do things, because it was almost as though the camera was now a character in the film itself.
Sure.
Because I was like, oh man, this is so awesome. And then he kills his sister, and then I liked how they unmask him, and then it's just kind of that pan out shot,
right?
Then that great music, dun, and then they kind of move forward to Donald Pleasance and the nurse going to the where Michael is,
yes.
where Michael's being held. I always thought that scene was actually even creepier.
Yes,
like I think there's a line where she says, I don't think they let why do they let the inmates, or since when do they let the inmates roam around like this? And I think Donald Pleasance goes, they don't.
Yeah, you're right.
He's like, holy shit, they don't.
Yeah, that scene always got me. You know what I mean? I mean, because obviously, a sanitarium's just a weird place in general when you can't see the people. You know what I mean? Then they're walking around while it's raining outside with gowns on and stuff. I always thought that was really weird as a kid, and freaky and scary. And I always thought that it was him jumping on the car and shit. That used to scare the shit out of me as a kid. Now, now that you see, with the advent of Blu-ray and high definition, and you can see the wrench that's taped to Nick Castle's hand when he breaks the window and all that kind of stuff. I always thought that was kind of funny, and but back then you never would have saw those things. You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of Jaws. Do you remember the opening sequence of Jaws where the girl's swimming and the guy's trying to get his clothes off so he can go skinny dipping with her? You never saw anything, and then with the advent of Blu-ray and high definition, I mean, you could see everything under that water. Steven Spielberg said, I had no idea I was making a porn movie. Because with the low resolution back then and on film, you would never have seen anything. But if you pay attention, I don't know if you've ever seen it in high def. I mean, you can see pretty much everything. So that's what that always reminded me of when I see Nick Castle's hand with a wrench attached. Did you ever notice that?
Oh no, I've never ever noticed that.
No kidding, really. I know. There I go again. Overanalyzing, but I don't know. I just thought that.
Oh
was
no,
fun.
I mean, if you noticed it, you noticed it. You're not overanalyzing.
Yeah.
I just never. I'm being honest. I never noticed it.
Yeah. So next time you watch it, you'll be seeing that, I'm sure. But
I'll look for it. I certainly will.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I like I said, that opening sequence of the point of view shot, and then I think it really sets the tone for what you're going to see in this movie, and then Carpenter backs it off a little. You know what I'm saying? Like, he lets you know this is fucked up, and you're going to see some fucked up shit. Maybe not gore and things like that, but you're going to see some messed up shit. But then he backs off when he introduces the main characters, and I think that really works, because the whole time you're like, when am I going to see this? When am I going to see this? And then she's sitting in class, and Michael Myers is across the street, which I always thought was kind of weird that he had the mask already when he was across.
That's a great shot.
Yeah, but man. It really is.
God. Like, I'll never forget the first time I saw that. I was like, I remember when I was a little kid. I was like, this is going to be a great movie. Right, that shot where she looks out the window and he's just standing there, and then she kind of looks away for a second to answer a question, and then she looks back, and he's gone.
Yeah,
I'm just like, oh man, because that is evil personified, really, because that is. Everyone's afraid of the thing that they could see for that split second and then isn't there the next.
Right.
He was able, I think, Carpenter was able to really capture everyone's fears in this one soul entity, this man in a mask.
Yes.
And I think Michael Myers is just the perfect, like, every scene with Loomis in it is just phenomenal because there's the look of dread on his face. Like, he's like, you are in serious, the whole death has come to your little town, sheriff. And the whole monologue he goes on about Michael Myers. I mean, that's probably one of my favorite monologues or quotes in horror film history. I absolutely love that scene.
Do you want me to go ahead and play it? I have it.
Oh, do you have it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, why not? It's the best, one of my favorite of all time.
All right, cool. Here we go.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left. No reason, no conscience, no understanding, and even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, of good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized that what was living behind that boy's eyes was purely and simply evil.
I'm sure that's the one you were talking about, right?
Absolutely. I mean, does that not give you chills every time you hear it? And how many times have we seen this movie? You know, I'm sure you and I have seen it probably 1,000 times combined.
Right.
And for everyone who's listening, I'm sure they've seen the movie over 1 million times. You know, It's one of those things. It just never gets old. That tale, that story, that the boy with the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. That is absolutely some of the best horror writing. And it really amazes me that Donald Pleasance was only on set for this film for 5 days, I believe.
Right. Yeah, 5 days, and they gave him $20,000 for 5 days of work.
Or no, didn't they pay him $300,000?
No, that's what the whole movie cost.
Oh shit! Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so something like that. I don't know the exact number, but how amazing is that scene, man? Like, it's it's amazing to me that the actor was on set for 5 days, was able to have a performance as good as the one in this movie.
Yeah.
And just line after line of just classic dialogue. I think Donald Pleasance is really one of the main reasons why this movie works, and I think it's a similar thing as to there would be no Batman without the Joker.
Right.
It's a similar thing to I don't think there'd be a Michael Myers without Donald Pleasance as Dr. Loomis, because I think that character is so vital to why we're afraid of Michael. He almost builds up the legend of Michael before we really even see Michael do all that.
Exactly.
He kills the sister. That's it. That's all you really see. You don't see him kill the guy that he steals the car from. You find his body.
Right.
It's just him just going, there's going to be kids slaughtered tonight, man, if we don't do something about this. And I always loved the sheriff, played by Charles Cypers, who was in a lot of Carpenter films at this time. He was in Escape from New York. He was in Elvis at a minor role. But I don't know, man. I really like Charles Cypers. What did you think of him in this movie, and what did you think about Loomis coming full circle?
Well, listen, I mean, first of all, everyone, you and I have talked about great performances in horror movies, and everyone knows what my favorite was. Well, my second favorite on the list, I guess, which was, in Jaws, Captain Quint. I think this is a close second to this doesn't go on as long as the Indianapolis speech from Jaws, but I'll be damned if every time he says he's got black eyes, I want him to say like a doll's eyes, like like Quint said, But
that'd be so awesome.
Every time I watch that scene, I say that, but I think it's a close second, man. I can't believe that going back and listening to that and I can't believe that wasn't on my list. But I will say that
had Donald Pleasance on the list.
Yeah, you did. But I will say that you're absolutely right. Listen, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. Okay, I love Jamie Lee Curtis. But if I had to choose which of those characters had to go, it would have been Jamie Lee Curtis.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
I don't even think I would even think about it for more than a minute, because her character, while yes, it was her breakout role and she became a star, she didn't build Michael. She fought Michael.
Exactly.
She fought the fear that Donald Pleasance built for us. And I think that Donald Pleasance is really for me at least, when I go back and rewatch this movie, he is the reason, really, that I watch it. I love his performance. I think everything about it is great. And I think we were talking when we reviewed Halloween 2 that he even went on to master this role even better in that film.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
I mean, he just does a great job. Great veteran actor.
Yep.
They wanted a few different guys to play this role. Am I right?
Yeah, Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. They wanted both of those guys, and they didn't get them, so they moved on to Pleasance. I think that's very, very interesting, and it shows you that this guy was made for this role. You know what I'm saying? That
Yes.
he was the one that, you know, they asked other people and they said no, which I guess Carpenter wasn't Carpenter yet then, so maybe but still, man, it really seemed to work out because neither one of those other guys could have done this role justice, and I hate to say that because I like both of those actors, but I don't feel that it probably would have been a paycheck instead of, you know what I'm saying, and I don't know if they would have put the effort in that Pleasance did, you know what I mean?
Yeah, nobody could have been Dr. Loomis except
Right.
Donald Pleasance. Nobody. I mean,
Yeah.
I like Malcolm McDowell, but
Oh,
no
no,
way.
come on.
I when I heard he got casted, I was like, it just won't work.
Right.
And it didn't. It really didn't. And it's not that he didn't try.
Sure.
It's not that he was bad. It's just that character is Donald Pleasance.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things you can't change, in my opinion. What I actually, if there's any nitpicks or gripes I have about this movie, which I really don't have any, to be honest, I always felt the girls were a little over the top.
Yeah, well, sure. Yeah.
And it's not even in a bad way. It's just like some of the dialogue is so cringy sometimes.
It is.
It's like,
I agree.
Lori, Linda, you wait up for me.
Totally.
I'm like, holy shit. Annie's bad. Annie's just bad. I'm sorry. Like, I always thought she was a bad actress. What's her name?
Nancy Loomis.
Nancy Loomis.
Actually, I think her name's Nancy Keys now, but yeah, it was Loomis back then, which is very interesting. I thought her name was Loomis, and one of the characters was named Loomis. But what do you? Okay, so I guess to go expand upon that, do you think P.J. Souls was good looking back then?
Yeah, I think PJ Souls was
yeah,
good looking
bro.
back then. Movies like this, movies like Stripes, I think she was a good looking woman.
Absolutely. And I didn't think Nancy Loomis was unattractive either. I mean,
I don't think any of them are really unattractive.
No.
I just don't think any of them are like
No.
sexy to the point where I'm like, holy shit, this is like one of my favorite. I would say PJ Souls of the three is the best looking.
Yeah, I totally agree. She's more of the Amy Steele type, I think, for me. You know what I mean? Normal, but yet attractive and not. I guess she wasn't very smart. Amy Steele seemed a little bit smarter in her role. But yeah. So, and obviously she shows her boobs, so that helps. You know, that helps a little bit. Totally. But yeah, so I liked. I agree with you. They didn't seem to be. They weren't showing their acting chops. Let's just put it that way. You know what I mean? What they had to work with was not giving them an opportunity to show if they had any acting ability whatsoever. So
at the end of the day, too, like for people listening to this, I don't think it matters. Like it's
right,
honestly,
right.
I think it almost works now.
Absolutely.
In a level like a factor that works to the point of it's like, oh, here's these over the top girls and they're gonna have their lines of dialogue
right
now, you know, and. I always thought it was funny. I was listening to some reviewer a few years ago. He was like, I don't get why Jamie Lee Curtis hangs around with them. She's nothing like them. And I always started laughing. I was like, that's true, but...
Right.
I mean,
yeah, right. No, that sounds like something I'd say, right?
Really.
Sounds like something I'd say, you know, overanalyzing everything a little bit. But did you know that Dennis Quaid was supposed to play Bob, PJ Souls' boyfriend?
Oh man, that's a shame. I wish he did.
Yeah, for whatever reason, scheduling issues, he couldn't. But I guess they went to the movie together to see it. They went to the theater to see it. I mean, so you know, I'm sure you've heard the story of when she, you know, drops the sheet and says, "See anything you like," and the guy in the audience says, "You bet your ass," or you know, or whatever.
Sweet ass.
Right. I guess Dennis Quaid wanted to fight the guy because I guess they were dating at the time. But she said, no, you know, don't worry about it. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And, you know, it's according to IMDb. I don't know. You know, I don't know whether you should believe that or not. But you know, talking about the Michael Myers character and things like that, you know, John Carpenter said once, and I read this somewhere, I can't remember where it was, somewhere online, that he said that you should never be able to relate to the character of Michael Myers. And not to get too far ahead, but don't you think that was the problem with the remakes of this film, is that Rob Zombie wanted you to be able to relate with a character like this that you were never intended to relate with?
No, I feel like the problem with that remake was he went the exploitation route.
Yeah.
Where he just should have. It's honestly, he was in a no-win situation, Rob Zombie. I don't feel like even if he shot for shot remade it, people would have bitched and said he didn't bring anything new.
That's true.
He brought something new to the table. People didn't like it because it ruined the mystique of that character.
Right.
Rob Zombie was in an absolute no-win situation. So, do I hate Rob Zombie for making the movies? No. I just think it just didn't work.
You hate the movies?
I don't think anybody could. I think Steven Spielberg could have directed the movie, would have sucked. It just would never have worked. But yeah, I know what you're saying with the whole giving a character like that kind of a background that makes us feel sympathy. We shouldn't feel sympathy for Michael Myers. I totally agree with that because he's not a sympathetic character. He's not even to me. It's not even that he's a human. He's not human at all.
Right.
He's just an entity.
Yeah.
He's, as he says in part 4, he's evil on 2 legs.
Right.
You know, and it's not that it's a man. It's just that this entity is absolutely 100% evil and will stop at nothing to kill Laurie Strode's character.
Right.
And there's I love how in this movie there's nothing, no backstory as to
no
who
real
Laurie
right.
Strode is.
Yep.
It's just a girl he's trying to kill. You don't know why. You don't have to know why. It just works because it's so masterfully done.
Yeah. What I guess I know I'm getting off topic here, but talking about this whole, being able to relate, do you think a character like Leatherface can be relatable? Because some people find him sympathetic or are sympathetic to him.
I don't find. In what way would Leatherface be?
Okay, so I'm glad you asked because I want to expand on this a little bit. If you listen to the commentary for Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which I'm sure you have, Toby Hooper, I believe it was Toby Hooper, says at one point when the kids keep coming around, these kids keep showing up at the house, and he goes into the room, and remember he hits the cage with the chicken in it.
Yeah.
And he's looking out the window and he's like pacing back and forth kind of like an animal. He says, Leatherface is saying, where are all these kids coming from? I don't know, he kind of made it sound like Leatherface just wants to live his life. And
doesn't he say this is a bad day for Leatherface?
Yeah, so something like that. So yeah, so I don't know. And the reason I said that is because this new Leatherface movie is a Rob Zombie type movie where it gives this character some background as to why things are going the way they are. So I just wonder if it's even possible with any of these characters. I mean, look at Jason, for Pete's sake. If there's any character you can be sympathetic to, it's Jason. And I feel like Leatherface maybe to an extent too. I don't know. I just find it really, really interesting. This is something that just came off the top of my head. I didn't plan on talking about this. I just find it very interesting.
Yeah, I mean, with Jason, I think, yes, absolutely. I mean, he was a poor kid that just drowned that was deformed. I mean, absolutely.
Yeah.
But with Leatherface, no, I think Toby Hooper's kind of full of shit in that commentary,
okay.
to be honest. Like, no offense to Mr. Hooper.
Sure.
And
rest in peace.
Rest in peace.
Sure.
But to be honest, it's like, do I care about where the Sawyer family came from or their origins?
Right.
That's the big problem with that remake. You added like 20 members of the family. The fat tea lady, the guy with no leg.
Right.
And why it didn't work is because it was stupid. It was because it was unnecessary. There's nothing scarier than those 3 fuckers at that table: the hitchhiker, the cook, and Leatherface.
Right.
And they're taunting Marilyn Burns, and then they bring Grandpa down.
Yeah.
That is the scariest. That is one of the best scenes in horror movie history.
It is.
I believe we talked about it in a previous episode. Our top 5 horror movie scenes. If you haven't seen that one, check it out because that was one of our best episodes, I think.
Yeah, I agree.
Just a really fun back and forth kind of banter. But to explain Leatherface and to make him sympathetic, it's completely pointless. That's not. I don't watch Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Go, oh, I feel bad for Leatherface.
poor Leatherface.
I just don't care. I want to
Right.
just watch a great film, and that's what Texas Chainsaw is.
Right.
Yeah. So I think to explain or add more characters that mean absolutely nothing but exposition to the plot,
right.
I think it's completely a waste of time. I think the Texas Chainsaw remake and the Texas Chainsaw prequel, the beginning, are 2 of really, really terrible films.
Yeah, there's only 2 reasons to get through those movies. And the first one is Jessica Biel, and the other one's Jordana Brewster. So you know,
other than that,
right?
I would say 0 out of 10. Like that bad. Those
Really?
movies, to me, those movies are 30 times worse than the Halloween remake and Friday the 13th remake.
Really?
It's probably on the level of the Elm Street remake.
Oh man, yeah, no, that's another bad one. You know, I've never seen that more than one time. I need to go back and watch that Elm Street remake. My eyes don't hurt bad enough.
Don't do it.
I'm just gonna burn the shit out of my eyes. But yeah, I mean, I you know, I agree with you in the fact that I don't want to know that stuff. You know, it doesn't do me any good as a viewer. You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, it takes away from it. You know, and I feel like that's part of the big reason that I hate the remake of Halloween is that I don't need any of that information whatsoever for me to. Like I said, as a matter of fact, it makes it less interesting to me. So I don't know. You know, I mean, we have Jason, we have Michael Myers, we have Jaws. You know, I don't need any explanation as to what the fuck's going on. I just need to be scared.
They just are. They just do. Right. It's not. It doesn't have to be. Oh, and this is why. And this isn't this cool that I added this and I made this connect to that. No, that's why like those Saw movies. When they kept going and going and going, it was like enough with the goddamn explanation and making everything connect. It's like, why couldn't it just stay the way it was? It's always, they can never leave well enough alone. It feels like it seems like to me, and it's unfortunate, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't watch any of these movies with the mindset of let me relate to the killer, or let me feel sympathetic for the killer. If you're doing that, I think you're doing it all wrong. Right,
I totally agree. So I know that. You know, I know when thinking about this movie, you know, you obviously think classic. You know, we all do that. You know, what are some of the things about this movie that you don't like? What are some things about, or maybe even some characters or some actors, or you know, is there anything you can think of about this movie that that takes you out of it, maybe, or that you don't really enjoy?
Like I said, I think Nancy Loomis is a little bit over the top in the film, and not really in the greatest of way. Although it kind of has grown on me over time.
Sure.
But to be honest, I think it's one of those movies that it does have its imperfections. It's I mean, even though I think it is a perfect movie, I think it does have some things about it that haven't aged well with me. Maybe.
Sure.
I've always felt the kills in the movie were a little bit tame, but then again, you have to realize that I saw Halloween Part 2 before I saw this movie.
Right, absolutely.
So I remember being like, "Oh man, there really wasn't much blood." But again, that's not a gripe because this movie really isn't one of those kinds of movies. All the problems I possibly could have with this movie are really just nitpicks. There really is nothing that I say, "Oh man, I absolutely hate this," and it doesn't work, and it still doesn't work. Like, no, I mean, I think this movie is. I have my nitpicks with it, but I think at the end of the day, it really is perfection. But how about you? Do you have any gripes with this one?
You know, I really don't. What I think about this movie, what I think the appeal about this movie is that I think that any type of horror fan can go sit down, watch this, and enjoy it. And you know, I don't know if it's all based on reputation. For instance, let me explain. Maybe I'm not making much sense. I believe that a gore fan, and I also believe this about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is what makes both of these movies classics, or you know, maybe even a cut above a classic, is that these two movies, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Halloween, make you see what you want to see.
Yes,
and that's not done anymore. I mean, it's done now to the point where it's really, really badly done. You know what I mean? And you know, when you think of Texas Chainsaw Massacre and you talk to a casual fan, they'll be like, "Man, there was a ton of blood in that movie," and the same with this one. You know, there was I can't believe that. You know, we saw that gore, and it's just not there. You know what I mean? And that's
they create it in their own mind.
So classic, and that's what these Tobe Hooper did it, and John Carpenter did it, and they both did it above and beyond anyone else. Friday the 13th, I love it, but it's just not the same. And that's why when I said to you why I consider maybe this a bit more piece of art than the things that came after it. You know, the things that came after it wanted to show you everything. They wanted to feed you everything. But Halloween, Texas Chainsaw Massacre allowed you to see what you wanted to see. And that's what really, to me, and I'm sure you would agree, that's what's scary.
Exactly.
That's
it's
what's
what
scary.
You don't see. It's that whole Lovecraftian kind of mindset and that trope. But I'll even go a step further with this, piggybacking off of what you just said.
Sure.
I actually had the privilege of seeing this a couple years ago in the theater with a couple of college friends, and none of them had ever seen it. And the main thing I took away from it, other than wow, holy shit, I'm seeing Halloween on the big screen, was their reactions after the movie because they had not seen it for the first. They were now seeing it for the first time. My friend Kristen, I remember her saying, "I can't, what was he? What did he look like?" She was referring to the scene where he takes his mask off for the split second, and puts it back on. Mm-hmm. It was almost like all the people I went with had their different interpretations of who he was or what he looked like. Kristen was like, "I think he was deformed," and then somebody else was like, "No, I think he was just actually like a normal looking guy." Right. And then there was this whole debate in the car, and I was like, "This is amazing! Like we all just saw the same thing." But everybody is arguing about what they saw. Right. That is horror done to perfection. That is John Carpenter. He hit it out of the park because, to me, what I saw is just the normal. I believe the actor's name is Tony Moran.
Tony Moran, yeah.
Who also rips off fans at conventions.
No shit. Yeah.
Stay away from him if you know what's good for you.
Him and Warrington Gillette, right?
Yeah, him and Warrington Gillette. I mean, Jesus, how much money Tony Moran has made off Nick Castle's performance. It bothers me.
Me too.
But it's true. I mean, it really is a scene where he's just a normal guy. Yep. I think that's what Carpenter's trying to say there. It's just he's just a normal-looking teenage or I guess early 20-year-old guy. Right. Yeah. And that's what's so damn scary about it because it's not this hideous creature. It's not this monster. It's a normal-looking guy. Right. It's a normal-looking guy behind this mask that wants to kill. Yep. And that's what's so scary about it. It could be anybody. It could be anybody or anything under that mask that you fill in the blank. Yep. And that's why I love horror, man. That's like one of the reasons, probably the primary reason why I love this genre so much. It's when you let me fill in the blank. It's when you let my mind create the horror for myself. And there's nothing scarier than what I can think of in my own brain. Right,
exactly. Well, and everyone knows what scares themselves in their own, you know what I mean? I mean, you and I made a movie, we couldn't say what's going to scare everybody, but everybody can scare themselves. You know what I mean? Does that make any sense?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, knowing that Michael Myers was, Ted Bundy or, Jeffrey Dahmer or the BTK, you know what I mean? Doug Rader, you know what I'm saying? He was just a regular dude that you never would have known until you let him in your house, or you get in his car, or whatever the situation is. And I think that I do feel that the slasher movie, and man, I'm really throwing my opinions around here, but I really feel that in that generation, that time, between the 70s and the 90s, that's what was scary. I mean, other than say, nuclear war and things like that, but it came to everyone's attention that these regular people could be these monsters, you know what I mean? And the Ted Bundys of the world and the John Wayne Gacy's of the world. I think that's what created the slasher genre. The way people wanted to be scared. So that's just my opinion. Anybody can refute that if they want. They can let us know if they agree or disagree. But that's just how I feel about it.
And it's the thing too, where like as much as I love Jason, I don't know if there's really any mystique left to that character because we've seen him without his mask. Yep. We've seen him unmasked, unchained, Right. But with Michael, we really never got to see, other than that split second, what was behind that mask.
You're absolutely right.
And I love, like, I'll never forget being like so. I couldn't even speak during this conversation I was listening to with all my friends in the car. I was just like, this is so awesome. Yeah. And like on the inside, I'm like, this is amazing. Like all these people are freaking out over this, and it's like not even something that you ever really hear people mention. Right. But I think it's a really important part of the movie where it's just it's a split second where you don't really know what you see. It's just this normal kid. And I don't know, that was the main thing I took away from it when I saw it on the big screen. Just their reactions of complete and total horror.
Wouldn't that be amazing to see a movie with people like that and then make a podcast out of the conversation that you know what I mean? To really give people an idea.
If I had anything to record what they said, it would have just been the most like. I bet you for like diehard horror fans like you and I, probably would have been the most cool thing to listen to.
Yeah,
because it was just the average day Joe Blow talking about the thing we all talk about and love. You know? That's actually what I really like about getting a Joe Schmo's opinion.
Yes,
especially if they're not snotty about it. Unless sometimes they just be like, "Oh, it sucked. It's that they make them better now." Blah, blah. Like that's I don't need to hear that.
Right.
That's fucking, in my opinion, that's complete ludicrous.
Bullshit.
You're entitled to think that, but I think you're goddamn crazy.
Right. Right. Exactly. So we were talking about the kills a little bit. We got to talk about what I consider the most iconic kill in this is when he kills Bob and sticks him to the door. Do you think that that's as good a kill as everybody makes it out to be? I mean, do you think? I think it's pretty iconic myself. The way that his response to Bob hanging there. What do you think? Does that interest you, or is it something?
That's my favorite kill in the movie. To be honest.
Yeah, that's what I was just gonna say. But yeah, his reaction, where he turns his head a little bit. I mean, how many times was that ripped off after that?
I mean,
do you know what I'm talking about? Where he hangs him and then turns.
You're right. It definitely was ripped off after that. I know Savini has said over the years that doesn't work, but I don't know. I think it works. It doesn't. It's one of those things that doesn't bother me. I always thought it was kind of just scary. I always thought like he wasn't going to be in the. I thought he jumped out so early that it threw me off guard.
Yeah.
Like he's just like, "Are you in here?" And I was like, "He's not going to be in there." Oh shit, he is in there. I remember as a kid, I was like, "Oh shit," that caught me off guard.
Yeah. Well, that's when you could get away with that. You can't get away with that now, right? You know what I mean? Because everybody knows. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't know. I talk about this a lot. All those tropes, that everybody knows now. You know what I mean? I guess maybe it has come back around to where it might work again now. Where no one would expect him to jump out at first, but back then, now, we talk about how, they close the medicine cabinet and see him in the mirror, and then for a long time he wasn't in the mirror because everybody was expecting him to be, all that kind of stuff. I don't know. I find that stuff super, super interesting about how that all comes full circle. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure. What else? What else I want to talk about? Well, obviously we talked about Donald Pleasant's character. You can't go wrong. We talked kind of about the girls a little bit. What about Tommy Doyle and Lynn? Was her name Lindsay? That's right, Lindsay, right?
Yes.
Okay, I was drawing a blank there for a second. You know who Lindsay? You know who that is, right?
Yeah, my mom actually told me that she's one of like the housewives of
Beverly Hills or whatever.
Beverly Hills now. Yeah, right.
Kyle Richards, and her sister was huge. I mean, huge as a kid in like Disney movies and things like that. And of course, I can't remember her name right now. But anyways, yeah, I just find that pretty interesting. They both went on to do a movie called The Car. Do you remember that movie? Actually, I don't know if it was done before or after this, but they were Josh. What's his name? Not Josh Brolin. What's his dad's name? James. Jeez, James Brolin's daughter's in the movie The Car. Have you ever seen that?
I've never seen The Car. I've
man.
had it on my Amazon Prime queue for about a year.
Dude.
I've never sat through it.
So it's if you like killer car movies. Or you're not sure?
I love Christine. I haven't seen all that many.
Yeah, it's not as good as Christine. I definitely wouldn't put it up against that one because Christine will win every time.
Christine is the Citizen Kane.
Right. Right, but it's kind of a cheesy, and I believe it was made for TV if I remember correctly. The Car was, but yeah, it's really interesting. I mean, it's like I said, it's not as good as Christine, obviously, but it's pretty good if you like killer car movies. Anybody out there agree or disagree? Let us know. Let John know what you think. That way he could better judge whether or not he's going to waste his time on it. But anyways, Kyle, and her name's Kyle. Is that weird?
I don't know.
That's weird. That is weird.
I always thought when I was a kid, Jamie, I went to school with like 10 Jamies, and all of them were guys.
Oh,
I remember
really?
seeing Halloween 4 going, Jamie's a girl's name?
Wow.
And like everyone was like, yeah, that's not weird. And there's a girl name for Jamie. I always thought that was really, really weird. But I mean, I guess that's just because of my school. Yeah.
So what did you think about the two young kid characters, Tommy Doyle and Lindsay? I don't know. Did they ever say Lindsay's last name? Probably not.
I mean, yeah, they do a fine job. I mean, there's not really
inconsequential.
I always thought it was funny. He was talking about the boogeyman and whatnot. But I liked the scene where he sees Michael carrying Annie back in, like he's carrying her like like how a groom would carry the bride, I guess.
Yeah.
But she's
Oh,
dead,
yeah.
so her head's kind of hanging down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I love that scene. Like, that's something like this just always got me going. I was like, oh shit, man! Could you imagine if you saw that? Like,
No.
what would you do?
Yeah, when Tommy looks out the window and he sees the outline of the shape against the house next across the street, I always loved that. I always thought that was pretty awesome. And were they watching? No, they weren't watching Night of the Living Dead, were they? They were watching something.
They were watching the thing from Another World.
There you go. Well, that would make sense. Yeah, and I always loved that. I always loved the fact that John Carpenter made this movie very, at times it was very. I don't even know what the word is. Just like regular. You know what I mean? Like what you would be doing at home when you were a kid. You know what I mean? On Halloween night or something. I don't know. It's one of the things that really, I think that really pulled me in as a viewer was there were times when a lot of crazy shit was going on and you were all tense, and then there were some times where it was just like this is like everyday life, and I love that about the scenes with Tommy. Obviously until the end, and even Lindsay at that point. You know what I mean? They were just kind of doing what kids do, and she was doing what babysitters would do, and so on and so forth. I don't know. I just really pulled me in as a viewer, I think.
Oh, for sure.
So, but yeah, at the end when everything kind of culminates, that like you said, the chase scene, and where she's out in the hallway up against the door, after she has stabbed him in the eye, spoiler alert, with the hanger or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And he sits up in the background. Do you remember seeing that for the first time? Did that scare the shit out of you?
Oh my God, that is one of my favorite all-time things, and I believe the Undertaker ripped that off. The sitting up,
nice.
Because throughout his entire career, that's every time he's down and out, he sits up and looks.
Nice.
And I just think that is one of the greatest things ever, man.
That's cool.
Love that scene, and Carpenter times the score perfect. It's like dun, dun, dun.
Oh yeah.
It's like. Right when he looks, it's dun, dun, and like you see the kids running out, and Donald Pleasance is like, "Oh shit!" He knows what's about to go down. Like that is one of the most awesome finishes to a horror movie of all time.
Yeah, no doubt. So, let's talk about some goofs in this movie. Did you ever notice that at the end, and if you haven't seen Halloween, I'm sorry, but there's some spoilers. When Loomis shoots Michael Myers, that he's carrying a revolver, but he shoots it 7 times. Did you ever notice that?
Yeah, I've heard people say that. I always thought it was 6 because in Halloween 2, I only hear the gun go off 6. And what I always thought too, is getting technical here, I guess. I always thought he missed him the first time when he first shoots.
I don't know. I always thought
when he takes his mask up and shoots, you just see Michael Myers go back. I always thought he missed him, then he shot him 6 times. So technically he shot 7 rounds, but he only hit him 6 times. That's what I always thought, but people tell me I'm crazy, so I don't know.
I'm gonna look it up right now. Let me see real quick. And
it's the scene where he's trying to strangle her, and then Pleasance is at the bottom of the stairwell and he shoots. I always thought he missed, and then he fired 6 shots. That's why I always thought he did shoot him 6 times. He missed the first time, but I'm apparently nuts. That's what I've been told. But while you're looking that up, I would like to mention the scene with Laurie Strode when she finds all the dead bodies, and she's in the house. And I love that scene where Annie's on the bed, and you just see the tombstone Judith Myers hanging over her, and that is so creepy. And I love how that scene, she backs up into the wall, and there's like a blue tint the camera has.
Oh, shit.
And then there's the scene where Michael's face slowly appears out of the darkness. It's it's probably the iconic shot of this movie, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. I mean, for me, I'm absolutely in agreement, because that scared me. I remember I being afraid of that as a kid. So yeah, absolutely. I totally 1000% agree with you. I think that's the scene where you go, oh shit, you know what I mean? And those oh shit moments in movies really are what bring you back, I think. For sure.
Absolutely. Like that scene is, you can't improve upon that scene. That you really can't improve upon perfection. Like that scene is perfection.
Right. Now, I do have a clip here of Michael Myers' death, but it's 3 minutes long. So let me see what I can do here without. I don't know. I don't know.
The technicality. I'm actually arguing. Somebody just tweeted me on Twitter, and he's saying that I'm an asshole for what I said about the new guy making the Twilight Zone. He's saying, that Dawn of the Dead and Night of the Dead are political films, right? I'm like, yo, Night of the Dead is not a political film, first of all, and Dawn of the Dead is so much more than just a political film. I'm like roasting this guy right
holy
now.
crap.
I'm sorry.
Well, I mean, we definitely. I definitely disagree. I'm not saying that, and I don't think you're saying either that it isn't a product of the time. You know what I mean? But I don't believe for one second that this movie was set out to be a political film, or that movie, I should say, was set out to be a political film. I mean, I'm sure you agree, right?
Oh, absolutely. I don't think he made Night of the Living Dead saying this is going to be a political film.
Right. It just happened to be, maybe his casting reasons and all that good stuff, may have been, but when he decided to write this movie, I don't believe that that's what it was all about. So let me see what I can do here about this silliness. All right. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and play this, and I do believe this is where I'm going to start with where Jamie Lee Curtis and Michael Myers are fighting, and she rips off his mask, and then Loomis comes up the stairs. So it's
sweet.
Yeah, and I'll stop it whenever whenever what I'm talking about is done. But let's go ahead and do it. So let's count the shots.
Oh, I know he's 7 shots. I just think he misses them the first one.
Holy shit.
Oh, that's 6.
There was only 6. Somebody edited that motherfucker. Anyways, all right, so I'm wrong. Maybe it's in 2. I
always thought there was, maybe he fires 6 and 2. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. No, well, this is definitely part 1. But anyways, that was just kind of silly. But yeah, and listen, we both realize that people have differing opinions on the things that we say here. Sometimes it just doesn't really matter. You know what I mean? We all interpret these movies differently. You know what I'm saying? And some people, everybody sees in these movies what they want to see, and that's kind of what makes horror great. We were just talking about that. You know what I mean? So, someone who is, say, I don't mean this negatively, but somebody who's politically charged will see what they want to see in any movie. You know what I mean?
That's true.
They can find something political in, say, Home Alone. You know what I mean? If they really wanted to, or The Goonies, or Gremlins. But for my enjoyment of horror movies. And I don't want to speak for you, but I'm sure you probably agree. My enjoyment of horror movies comes from the fact that it takes me away from all that stupid shit. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It gives me a reason to forget about the things that are bothering me. You know what I mean? It gives me a reason to not fear those things for at least an hour and a half or whatever it ends up being. You know what I mean? It takes you away from all that. And I think as we get a little bit older, it's hard to do that. That's why for me, I like to go back and watch my old favorites. You know what I mean? So because it takes me back to a time to where I didn't have to deal with all that shit. You know what I mean? So, we're not here to offend anybody, but if you get offended, fuck you. You know what I mean? I don't know what to tell you. There's only so much I can do. As a podcast host, and I'm sure you feel the same way. I can't really have any effect on how you feel about what I have to say. And, I'm not trying to be a dick or anything, but we're here to have a good time, man. We're not here to prove anybody wrong or make them feel bad about something. As a matter of fact, we started this to make people feel good about horror movies and to bring people in to talk about things that they don't get to talk about, or listen to things that they don't get to listen to on a regular basis. That's why this whole thing was created in the first place. Is because we didn't really have a place to go to talk like this, and that's why we do this every week. Believe me, this isn't a job to John and I, right, John? This isn't a job to you.
Not at all. This is like almost a therapy session.
Exactly, right? Well, I don't want to call out any other podcast hosts because that's not what I'm trying to do. But some of these podcast hosts, they'll do a podcast once every month or two, or once a month or twice a month at the most. We do this every week because we enjoy doing this. You know what I mean? And until the point that it's not fun anymore, That's what we plan on doing. You know, we're here for you guys, and we're here for us. You know, I mean, if nobody, John and I have said this 1,000 times. If nobody listened to this podcast, we probably still do it. I mean, it's nice that people listen, and we love it. We want people to listen, but even if nobody listened, we would still do this because it's what we enjoy doing. You know, I don't know if we would record it, but we would definitely keep doing it. So, but anyways, I didn't mean to be a downer there. Is there what else about this movie? Oh, you know what? We never really talked. You talked a little bit about the soundtrack and and stuff.
Don't fear the reaper.
Yeah. What do you think? What do you think about the? I mean, obviously, what do you think about the score? Let's talk about that.
Well, I mean, it's got to be the greatest horror movie score of all time.
Yeah, it works.
I mean, I love Dawn of the Dead score better, but like, this is the most classic, widely known horror score of all time. Even if you haven't seen this movie, you hear this score, you know what it's from.
Yep.
Even if you haven't seen it, you know what it's from. I mean, it's absolutely amazing. But it's I think the greatest horror movie score of all time. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, let me just put it this way. I think there's two scores that every person on the planet, even like the pygmies in New Guinea, would know, and that's this one and Jaws. And if that doesn't tell you how classic and how influential this one is, because I put it up there with Jaws, I mean, that says everything to me. Is that, I think Jaws, but you know what the difference is? Is that John Carpenter did this one on his own. And not to say John Williams didn't do it on his own, but he had been doing it for years and years and years at that point. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. To me, that's the ultimate of compliments, is that I put it up there with Jaws. Because everybody, if you're at the beach and they, over the loudspeakers, they start playing the Jaws theme, you're getting the fuck out of the water. Just in case. You know what I'm saying? And I feel the same way about Halloween. You hear this and it's instant creepiness. You know what I mean? So I think it's fantastic. And and the story goes is that he screened this movie for some executives without the music. And one of the women in the screening said that wasn't scary at all, and it kind of pissed him off. And that's when he went on to do the soundtrack. Have you ever heard that? Yes.
They hated it. Everyone said it was a horrible movie, and then he added the music in, and now it's the greatest of all time.
That's amazing. And again, that speaks volumes right there. Did you know that what's today? Today's the 3rd. A week from today, John Carpenter is going to be in Detroit doing his anthology. I don't know if you know he's been traveling around doing music, right?
Oh no, I did not know that.
Yeah, he this is like his second tour in the last 2 years. But he just put out a new album, and if you have Spotify, or you can probably find it here on YouTube, he put it's called Anthology, and it's all of his old stuff redone by him and his son and his band. So I would love to be able to go see that, but I don't see. I'm going to waste so much money this weekend that I'm not going to be able to run to Detroit, which is like a 3-hour drive, and see him next Friday. But he's, and again, I think it really speaks volumes to who John Carpenter is in society still. Even though he hasn't made a decent movie in quite some time, people are still willing to flock to see him play music from his movies. You know what I mean? I just find that so interesting, man. And, I guess it solidifies, my opinion of him. You know what I mean? I mean, it kind of backs how I feel about John Carpenter as an artist and as a filmmaker. You know what I mean? That people are still, after 40 years, still going to see, 39 years, still going to see him perform music. I just find that super, super interesting. And like I said, he's my favorite of all time. So it just kind of reiterates my feelings for him. So, and like I said, anybody who wants to go out there, you could probably find it, his music on YouTube, or I know it's on Spotify. I have it as a playlist on Spotify. So, but yeah, all of his stuff is really good. This kind of was the beginning of it all, I think.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to talk about this movie? Or you have any ideas for what we could do next? You got any? I know you're always thinking. I thought maybe you might have some ideas. I mean, at some point we got to talk about some Christmas related stuff, but that's still, still a month away.
Yeah, we got like a month or so.
Yeah.
Before we go into that stuff.
Yeah.
That's a good question. What will we do next? I'm not 100% sure. Maybe we can think on it. Maybe I'll think throughout the week.
Well, I know we have a listener who wants us to do street trash. which I don't think we're going to do next. But we got plans on doing that in the near future at some point. And obviously there's still a million movies out there that we haven't done. Do you want to do something a little bit more recent, maybe, or I don't know? Like I said, we can talk.
We could do that. We could do something more recent. Actually, I forgot to say that I ended up seeing Jeepers Creepers.
Oh, 3?
Part 3.
Ooh,
Jeepers Creepers Part 3. I saw it this past weekend.
Yeah. Garbage, right?
Worst horror movie of the year.
Really?
Absolute. I cannot believe. It was honestly what I felt about it. I felt like it was almost like a fan film.
Oh,
like it
man.
didn't feel like it was really made by the guy that made the first two.
I don't know how to feel about that because on some level I want it to be as good as the original, or I mean even the second one I still don't feel it's a terrible film. But on the other hand, I kind of feel that's probably what he deserves. You know what I mean? And I know we don't really want to get into that. I know. I just I'm just kind of torn on how I should feel about it.
I don't. I'll be honest, man. I thought it was bad. I've heard some people say that it's an okay movie. I don't know how. I watched this with a few of my friends.
Oh, okay.
Like Connor, Nick, and Ryan,
Mm-hmm.
and we were all like, "Holy shit! Like, what happened with this movie?"
Okay, have you seen?
It's honestly, like on the level of like a Troll 2 kind of bad.
Wow.
Without the charm.
Oh, jeez.
I think the acting was bad. I think the story was bad. All the characters were just terrible, man. Oh my god, it was almost like the Creeper. This is not a complete spoiler or anything, but
right.
like now his car or the truck that he drives
right.
can it's bulletproof. It has contraptions that it shoots out like these spike balls at people.
Oh boy,
I was like, what the fuck is this? What is this
weird.
Like Inspector Gadget?
Right.
Like is he go Gadget spike balls?
Right, that's weird.
Out of people, I'm like, yo, this is terrible. Oh man, what a letdown!
Wow.
Really, really bad movie.
Have you seen Phantasm Ravager?
I have not, but I heard even worse.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask. If it was because I couldn't sit through that, John. It was really, really, and I hate saying that. I really do because I love Don Coscarelli and I love at least the first 3 Phantasm movies. You know what I mean? I really like them a lot. Maybe we should talk about Phantasm, dude. We haven't talked about that.
Oh man, Phantasm's amazing,
yeah.
dude.
But yeah, I was so disappointed. I mean, it was really, like the CG. There's a bunch of CGI and it was really bad. And oh my god, I can't remember the character's name. The old guy, holy shit. Anyway, he looked horrible, and you know what I mean. Not the tall man, but Reggie.
Reggie
Bannister. Yeah, he looked. I mean, he just looked bad. I mean, he's showing his age. Obviously, I mean, he was. He was in his 30s when he made Phantasm. So it's been almost 40 years since then. But anyways, it was really, really bad too. If anybody, unless you're a huge, huge fan, I wouldn't bother watching that. So so there's 2 thumbs downs, one from me and one from John about some sequels to movies that we probably all really, really enjoy. So yeah, I'm pretty disappointed, but I kind of knew as soon as they put it on. What was it, Sci-Fi? Is that what you watched it on?
Yeah, they put it on TV. It was on Sci-Fi. I think at like 9 o'clock on Saturday. Saturday.
Yeah, I knew as soon as they put it out that quick on Sci-Fi that it probably was not going to be one of the better movies of the year.
We were excited, man. We got all this food, drinks, and whatnot. We were like, "Holy crap, Jeepers Creepers 3!" And we were like, "Wow!" And by the end of it, we were all just looking at each other like, "What the hell?"
Did you watch the whole thing?
Like, you would have thought somebody died. Like it was so funny. Like our reaction, like we were all just so let down. But I guess it's a movie that tore people because I know there are some people out there that liked it.
Wow.
If you liked it, I would love to know why. Please, like, message us on the page. Tell me why. Like, I would love to know.
Please tell us why. Yeah. Actually, FHM podcast at gmail.com or flashback horror movie podcast at gmail.com. Let us know on Twitter. Flashback horror. Oh, that's at flashback horror on Twitter. Flashback horror movie podcast on Instagram, Facebook, obviously. Flashback horror movie podcast. Let us know if you're a fan of the 3rd installment of Jeepers Creepers or Phantasm Ravager. I'm sure there are people out there who like both of those movies, and I'm almost as positive that it's probably more about their love for the other movies than it is the love of the movies that they watch this time around. You know what I mean? I understand that.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes it's like they let the new movie, live on the reputation of the first one.
Sure.
And it's like that can blind somebody's view of, well, is this movie any good?
Right.
Yeah, I agree with you. I love the first 2 or 3 Phantasm movies. The fourth one I haven't seen in a long time, and I had no interest really to see Ravager. I will somewhere down the road. I know I will.
Yeah.
Can you get those movies in a box set for any cheap amount of money? Like
the Phantasm movies?
Yeah, how much do they go for?
Well, as a matter of fact, I believe that they're going. They have a box set right now that's going for like $51. That's brand new. You know, it's got the extras. I'm not sure who put it out yet. I've been thinking about whether or not I should. You know what I mean? I should buy it also, and I believe it has Ravager. I keep saying Ravager. It's Ravager. Here it is. Oh well, you don't want the. Damn. There is a huge box set out. I believe it's I don't know if it's Arrow or whatever, but that's actually going for $234. That's not the one I'm talking about. There's actually a set here, but it's probably garbage. It's actually $55, 5-movie Blu-ray set. But actually Phantasm was just released on Blu-ray for the first time by who I don't know who the company is that put the movies out. Let me look here real quick. But you can actually pick it up for $15, and I do have that, the original. And I'm trying to figure out who that is that put it out. Anyways, whoever the company is that originally released it. But it's got like an audio commentary. It has the graveyard cars, the count cars where they actually make a Challenger and you know what I mean, like the original and all that good stuff. So, get interviews from way back in 1979, all that kind of neat stuff. So that's not too bad if you're interested, in or owning that on Blu-ray. I don't know how you feel about owning a lot of these old movies on Blu-ray. Sometimes it's a kind of a letdown. You know what I me
Yeah, it's true. It happens from time to time.
And Phantasm
to be expected.
Yeah, Phantasm 2 has actually been released by Scream Factory. If you're interested in that.
I knew that.
Yeah, you can pick that up.
That's an awesome movie.
Yeah, so I own both of those. So I don't, the later ones were not really my cup of tea. You know what I mean? So I wasn't a huge fan, but I've still been thinking about buying that box set for $55 or $50 or whatever it is.
Yeah, I try and go back to rewatch the first one as much as I can.
Oh yeah, once a year at least.
And the second one I really like. I've seen the third one. I like the third one. It's okay, but I think the first two are the best.
Absolutely good. Those are fun. Those are fun. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I've gotten recently. I bought the movie Prosy. Have you ever heard of that movie?
No. What's it? Is it a new one or?
No. It's an old one from 1980. I'm going to say this, and you're going to shit your pants, but it's Uli Lommel.
Is it?
Yeah, back when he actually made halfway decent movies. It was right after Boogeyman.
Okay, yeah, I've seen Boogeyman.
And it's about a woman who her mother was killed when she was little. Her mother was a prostitute, and she's living with this guy, and he's like overbearing, and he works nights, so she decides to become a prostitute and kill the Johns, and she hears her mother's voice and stuff like that. It's actually really, really good. I bought it on, I think it's only on 88 Films. Are you familiar with 88 Films?
Yes.
Yeah, they have really, really good slasher collection. Unfortunately, they're not all region free. Most of them are region 2 because they come from overseas. But this one actually is region free because I believe it's the only place it's ever been released. So, but it's not bad. And there's an interview with Uli Lommel, who obviously I hate. I mean, first of all, he's a dick. Second of all, he made some really, really shitty movies. The interview with him on there is amazing to watch because he's super old and he's trying to look young. It's just, it's just a fucking train wreck.
People like that are the worst.
Yeah, and he still thinks he's relevant and stuff. You know what I mean? So, I don't. But the movie's not bad if you're into that. And what else? Oh, I know you're not a big gamer, but the new Call of Duty comes out today. Actually, came out at midnight last night.
My friend Brandon Gordon got it at midnight.
Yeah, it's the zombies is supposed to be pretty amazing if you like to play zombie shooter games. Which that would be the only reason I would play it. And my kids want it, so. I'll just make them stop playing, and I'll play that for a little bit. I'm trying to think, man. I bought a bunch of other shit, too, but I can't remember exactly what it was recently. So maybe we'll get to that next time. So is there anything else, man? Anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the original John Carpenter's Halloween?
No, like we said, absolutely all-time classic. Not much we could really say that hasn't been said.
Right.
But really, I mean, one of the all-time greatest horror films ever, and I think it's a movie that will stand the test of time. And it's like I was saying, I think back when we talked a little bit about Texas Chainsaw Massacre, if there were like 5 horror films that will still be relevant 100 years from now, I think this will be one of those films for sure.
Absolutely.
I think this Texas Chainsaw are 2 of those movies. So I think the original Halloween is an absolute all-time classic. I know a lot of people are really excited for the new one, and I think Michael Myers really will never die. Like Mustafa Akkad says, the fans keep him alive forever.
Yep. I totally agree. Maybe that's another thing we could do, John, is do like our top 5 favorite horror movies of all time. You think that'd be too hard? Think we talk too long?
I mean, I have a top 20 list on my YouTube channel.
Shameless plug. Wait a minute.
Yeah.
It's not. You can't call it the top 20.
Well, I mean, yeah. If we did a top 20, holy shit, we'd be here for about 4 days.
No, I'm actually saying you can't call yours a top 20.
Oh, because I didn't finish it.
Yeah, you son of a bitch! You got to get on that, bro.
I can finish it on here. Though.
How do you leave an idiot in suspense? That's what he's doing. He's leaving me in suspense. What did you make it up to 3?
Yeah, it was so bad, like with work and school.
I know. And
I stopped for a month, and then I was like, oh, I'll go back to it. And I just never did.
Yeah. I'm just giving you a hard time, man. Get it out there, man.
I feel you. No, I could honestly, I could. And what's funny about that list is it kind of changes. Like,
right.
I think I had Last House on the Left at number 20, but I think I'd actually like move that way up more. I think I like it more than movies that I put over it.
Nice.
So it would be interesting to do that again. Maybe we could just go week by week talking about your number 10 and my number 10. We could just do double feature. We could do something like that. I mean, the possibilities are endless. Really.
Yeah. We'll get together and figure it out, and we'll do what's best for the fans.
What's best for business.
No doubt. All right, brother. Well, I guess that's number 32 in the books. Like I said, guys, contact us. Let us know what you think about the podcast. I've given out everything. It'll be in the description on iTunes and on Spreaker and on Stitcher, that you'll be able to click on and go straight to our pages, and let us know what you think, guys. We're really, really interested. Also, we still haven't had anybody rate us on iTunes, so go out there and rate us, so that way people will know what they're getting into when they see our podcast. So please do that for us. That would be incredible. That way more people could see it and maybe give us a listen, and we started a pretty good community here. So, but anyways, man, yeah, I hope you have a good weekend. I was gonna talk about my Dodgers a little bit, but I don't want to cry right now. So they got beat in the World Series by the Astros. So we'll just leave it at that. Another year, another empty. Oh, jeez. Empty case with no trophy in it. Let's just put it that way. So, but anyways, yeah, we'll move on from that. And there's always next year, as the Cubs always say. So. Sorry, Cubs fans. Anyways, all right, man. It was good talking to you, and I will definitely catch you on the flip side, right? And I'll talk to you sometime this week about what's going on, right?
Yeah, man. No problem.
All right, cool. All right, man. Take it easy.
You too, my man. Peace.